Hello, everyone, and good afternoon from Dubai. Is my audio clear? Am I audible to you?
Yes, Kriska, we can hear you.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, and welcome to our 73rd live webinar. My name is Kriska, and I am delighted to be here with you today alongside TDCC training team. And we are excited to bring you another interesting topic, the power of environmental sounds in early literacy. On behalf of TDCC, we would like to thank our 79 advocates from different countries who registered for this session. And to those who have joined us live here on YouTube, thank you for your time and for your presence. And we would like to acknowledge our registrants from Lebanon, Egypt, UAE, India, Uganda, Philippines, and South Africa. So wherever you are in the world, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. And before we begin, let me share a short video about TDCC and our esteemed speaker for today. Thank you.
Welcome to the TDCC Community Live webinar.
TDCC stands for the Developing Child Center located in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, UAE.
Established in 2012. We have been providing personalized support to over 1,000 children. We have 60 dedicated and committed experts, and we work closely with parents and schools to ensure no child is left behind. We think different, we teach different. We empower, not limit children. Labels like autism, dyslexia, and ADHD are not relevant or perceived as disabilities, difficulties, or disorders that limit children's abilities. We believe that brilliance needs difference. The TDCC services are available in English, French, and Arabic. The inclusive educational services nurture and support the developmental and educational needs and help empower each child to reach their full potential. Occupational therapy assists children in performing and achieving important learning and developmental skills they need in life. Psychomotor therapy is a healthcare profession that is based on a holistic view of the person and is involved in the treatment of different disorders. Speech and language therapy assists children who have disorders of speech, language, communication, and swallowing. Psychology provides both educational and clinical services, including counseling and parenting. ABA therapy focuses on improving specific behaviors. It is commonly practiced as a therapeutic intervention for individuals with autism. Specialist learning support. We assist in developing the academic and social development of students who need support in all these areas. And we design and host local and international training and workshops for practitioners, parents, caregivers, and educators. Just like this one today. We have a few rules to follow during the webinar. Please remain muted while the speaker is presenting. Please give your full attention to the presentation. We will be sending you the replay, so you can review it anytime. Please be interactive if the speaker requests your participation. During the question and answer session, we kindly request everyone to type their questions in the chat box and the speaker will address them.
Welcome to the 73rd TDCC Worldwide Webinar, The Power of Environmental Sounds in Early Literacy. We are delighted to have you with us today as we explore how everyday sounds can become powerful tools in supporting children's early language and literacy development. We are honored to welcome our speaker today, Anita Harris, an early years practitioner and learning support educator dedicated to creating inclusive, engaging, and developmentally appropriate learning experiences for young children. With over 5 years of experience in international schools across Dubai, Anita brings a deep understanding of early childhood development, communication, and sensory-based learning. Trained in the Monster Phonics program, she skillfully helps early learners connect sounds, language, and literacy through playful, evidence-based approaches. Her work reflects a heartfelt belief that every child deserves the opportunity to build strong foundational skills and unlock their potential as confident readers. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all welcome Anita Harris.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. It was lovely to have you in this session. So I will be discussing about the power of environmental sounds in early literacy. I aim to make this interactive, so we do have questions that I appreciate your response, and then we'll make it more interactive so that it benefits all of us. All right, so moving on, the power of environmental sounds in early literacy. Sorry, I'm just having a bit of a issue here. Let me try again. I apologize for this. Okay, if you can see my screen, I just need you to show me a thumbs up. Yeah, okay, perfect.
Yeah.
All right, the power of environmental sounds in early literacy. In this session today, we will be discussing more about how developing sound awareness in everyday environments build the foundation for reading and language growth. We will be talking more about practical strategies and playful activities to help children tune into sounds before formal phonics instruction begins. And we will also understand the important link between listening, phonemic awareness, and reading readiness in early learners. So firstly, we need to ask ourselves, what is literacy? Essentially, literacy is the ability to read, write, speak, and listen in a way that let us communicate effectively and make sense of the world. This definition is from the National Literacy Trust in the UK. There are many reading programs to support literacy, and the more popular one is the Phonics program. So Phonics have gained traction in learning how to read internationally. But what we need to know is that phonics is not just the alphabet sequence. Phonics is more than the alphabet. It's important for us to know the names of the alphabet, but it's not phonics. So phonics allows children to decode words and learn how to read. They will apply a strategy to teach them how to read. And through phonics, there will be spelling rules associated to develop fluency in reading. Obviously, depending on the need of the children, we will need to understand phonics at the ground level. So to explain further, we know phonics is a reading program. Essentially, it is a reading program where it is made up of units of sounds. This means that the alphabet, having only 26 letters, is not enough for this 44 units of sound to make the words that we speak today. If I were to give you an example, the word cat, it consists of 3 units of sound. We have k, a, t. That's 3 units of sound that makes the word cat. Every sound is known as phonemes, and grapheme will be the symbol of the letters. So for example, if I say the word cat, the grapheme will look like the letter C, the letter A, and the letter T. But the sound will be k, a, t. So once we know the terminology, it will help us understand why listening to sound around us really helps us develop the phonemic awareness that is necessary to read fluently. So as I said earlier, the name of the alphabet is important, but phonics have 44 units of sound, and each sound have a behavior. So each letter have a behavior. Each letter have a sound they produce. Like I discussed earlier, the word dog consists of 3 sounds: d, o, g. Same like cat: k, a, t. In short, before we learn the name of the letters, we need to know what the animal is. For example, we need to know what the picture means. So we need to know vocabulary first. So in this picture, we have a picture of a dog. So if I were to point out this picture, I will be able to tell, oh, that's a dog. But what is the sound of the dog? So then I might say woof woof. Someone else might say bow wow. Someone else might say ruff ruff. So that interpretation of the sound is the way we process it, the way we were taught, the way we became accustomed to. Similarly with phonics, when we say the letter D, that's the name of the letter. And then we need to ask ourselves, what's the sound of the letter D? It is D. So in order for us to read words, we are blending individual sounds to make a word. So the word dog has 3 units of sound: D, O, G. It makes it dog once you blend it. So another example of the unit of sound in the word chair. If you notice, the word dog has 3 letters, 3 sounds, but the word chair has 5 letters and it only has 2 sounds. The sound of a chair is ch, air, 2 sound, but ch, it's not available in the alphabet order for us to say it. A lot of the time, when we try to teach our children of determination, we would break down the word chair into k, a, e, to help them spell chair. That's not the accurate way to make them understand why it's important to understand digraphs and trigraphs. This is a bit more on the technical aspect once the foundation has been established. So just to give an overview, when we teach phase 2, phase 3, and if it's a digraph or a trigraph, we need to ensure that we don't break those sounds. That's how they learn the sound. So ch remains ch. It's ch. You can name it saying, oh, to spell chair, I need to put ch to make the ch sound. We're not saying it k, ha, because that's just going to confuse our children, especially if they are in need of intervention support. We are only going to teach them ch as a digraph. Before we go to this stage, there is a very interesting article in the Cambridge University Press by Megan Dixon. So she is a director of literacy for Aspire Education Trust. And what she mentioned is that strong vocabulary forms a key foundation to enable young children to communicate effectively. In other words, developing reading skills, children need to first learn the names of objects and things around them first. So it needs to be practical, it needs to be familiar. So they need to know the names of things around them. I would like to get your perspective into this topic before we move on. What is your favorite activity to help children learn new words in your setting? If you can just type it in the chat box, some one or two activity that you like for children. And then I'll see if I can read it quickly. Let's see if I can find the chat box. Show and tell, wonderful. Yeah. Show and tell is a wonderful activity for speaking and listening, and also for developing vocabulary. One of my personal favorite is the attention bucket, if you're familiar with it. So that's one of the way we can expand our vocabulary and teach children new words. All right, moving on. My screen is frozen. Okay, so apologies for the screen being frozen, but moving on. First, I would like to discuss about a famous Swiss psychologist. Some of you may know him, especially if you do a lot of reading in psychology or childhood development. So Jean Piaget, a Swiss psychologist from Switzerland, who very much influenced the way early childhood education functions in our current day and age. So he came up with the theory of cognitive development theory. And he came up with that theory based on his observation of his own children, as well as the studies that he conducted. According to Piaget, children go through 4 stages of cognitive development. So in order for language to develop, there is a lot of growth and development happening in their brain. And based on his observation on neurotypical children, this is his conclusion. So the sensory motor stage is usually from 0 to 2 years old. And this is the point where babies will explore using their hands, their mouth, so all their senses are stimulated. And the activities that help them develop are usually motor oriented. So including learning how to crawl, walk, climb, jump, all that, not jump or truly climbing, but exploring their physical development is within that period. If you look at the period of time when a baby is 3 months old, they might turn and then they start to sit. So all that are gross motor development. And then the pre-operational stage is where language development occurs. And usually this is between 2 to 7 years old. And then concrete operational stage and formal operational stage. So we're going to look more into this pre-operational stage where language develops and how play experiences shape that growth in children. According to Piaget, children organize information from experiences and interactions, and they form schema in their memory. So schema is like a mental template. So if the child is exposed to a food, the taste of the food, the watermelon, for example, he's eating watermelon, that taste gets imprinted into his memory. And then looking at it, he will create new neurons to that experience. So he knows, okay, this is how a watermelon looks like, this is how it tastes. And then each time he interact with that object, more schema will form. And um, and he will assume everything he sees is a watermelon. So if it's red and um, it has the same taste, it's a watermelon. Until he is challenged by another experience. So then you'll make assimilation and then accommodation. Um, I'm not going to touch in depth about this, but just to give you an idea of how the mental memory works for young children. So in Piaget's theory is that experience help develop this, and the brain will try to accommodate this experience. And when you're working with children of determination or in an inclusion settings, we do try to do a lot of um, intervention reinforcing previously learned concepts as part of our intervention sessions. So when we look at Piaget's theory of cognitive development, we do apply them a lot, even in neurotypical children, because we revisit what has been learned and then we extend their learning. There are many opinions in terms of language development, which I'm not going to delve today, because I think it's a very rich topic and we won't have time to discuss about the aim of this talk, which is more about phonics. But I'm happy to discuss more if you write it to me after the session, and then we can maybe host another webinar about it. But going back to what Piaget talked about schema. So once we know this, we need to explore our role in guiding children's phonics learning. I think the key is to know that in the beginning, the sensory motor needs to be established for children to be able to progress in their language development. So sometimes we notice our children needs more help with motor planning. And then rather than focusing on the abstract part of learning, which is learning letters and sound, let's take a look at where they are in their sensory motor stage of development first. And I will explain to you what environmental sound is and how this relates to the foundation in phonics, going back into Piaget's theory of cognitive development. So another question I would like to know is, in your setting, what programs have you used or seen that help children build foundational skills in their early years for them to be ready into formal learning in their primary school, like year one? Because phonics is taught at the foundation level, but it's not quite demanding as it is when they get to year one. So if you can share your ideas about what program have you used that really help children develop foundational skills, or if you think there is a gap in it, this will be great to know if we need to cover this in the future. Right. All right. So in my experience, I feel more could have been done to make the foundation years a bit more measurable. And because the intervention period in the early years is it's a really narrow window. And this is why a lot of early years intervention is emphasized, because the change that could happen is really profound when given the right intervention early on. But that does not mean that later intervention will not work. It just means identifying a need and supporting that need in a timely way will help children learn new skill and help them develop in an area that is otherwise forgotten for them, especially for our children of determination. So, based on my previous question, what I was hoping is to know the earliest program that is used in your setting. So if you are an early years educator and you are delivering EYFS, the EYFS is helping children develop systematic synthetic phonics foundation, because it directly links to the letters and sound guidance from the Department of Education. But what is systematic synthetic phonics? So systematic synthetic phonics follow a step-by-step structure for children to develop reading and writing skills. It follows a sequence to learn and then to apply that knowledge afterwards. For example, if you follow the SETPIN or MASDT, depending on your scheme, you will be able to read simple CBC words, right? So you don't teach phonics from A to Z. If you're following the systematic synthetic phonics, you are following the set of letters that is recommended, that is from the program that is validated by the Department of Education. So to move on, let's talk about the different levels of phonics. There are 6 phases of phonics if we are following the letters and sound recommendation. And although this is predominantly UK from the British curriculum education system, but international settings have often used the letters and sound recommendation as well. So phase 1 is all about general sound discrimination. In general sound discrimination, there are 3 aspects. That is environmental sounds, instrumental sounds, and body percussion. And then comes rhymes, alliteration, vocal sounds, and oral blending. Now, rhymes, alliteration, vocal sounds, and oral blending, we will talk more about it later. And I'm hoping to run a session just on that, so that we will have a deeper understanding of its importance. But phase 2 and 6, we will not cover today, because that's more on the technical side of it. But today we will really focus on the general sound discrimination and the phase 1 aspect. So phase 1 aspect concentrate on developing children's speaking and listening skills, developing their phonological awareness, oral blending and segmenting, as well as developing their comprehension, their listening comprehension. Now, phase 1 activities pave way for children to make a good start in reading and writing. This is from the letters and sound. So they come out with this system that's measurable, that gives a robust guideline for practitioners to follow. It's a really useful tool to help us, especially when we want to teach reading to our to our children of determination, because it allows us to adapt and break it into manageable chunks when accessing them mainstream is a challenge. Um, so, what does phase one phonics cover? So, children will be developing in three areas. That is auditory discrimination. What does that mean? It basically means being able to tune into sounds. If a child hears the sound of a doorbell, then he will be able to recognize, oh, that's a doorbell. So that's auditory discrimination. Now, auditory memory and sequencing, what does that mean? Basically being able to recall sound. So if he recognizes that's a doorbell, so every time he hears a doorbell, he understands that's a doorbell. He associates a door and a bell. He recognizes it to be in his home, or when he goes out and he hears the doorbell. And then in phase one, it also encourages the development of vocabulary and language comprehension. So everything has a name. The door is the name of the door. This is how it looks like. This is the texture of the door. This is what a door sound like when you slam the door, when you open the door. So there is a name. Everything has a name. So in order for us to develop phonological awareness, we need to know of the names around us, because every name is a collection of sound that is blended to form the word. And that's how we communicate. So in environmental sound, there are seven aspects of seven aspects of phase one phonics. When these seven aspects are secured, you will find that progressing into phase two is much easier, because the child has developed quite robust form of phonemic awareness. So phase one, as we said earlier, we will be talking more about general sound discrimination. So phase one has seven areas. Now, the first three areas that we will be talking most is environmental sound, instrumental sound, and body percussion. This we will go into detail. But to summarize, rhythm and rhyme, why is it important? Is it just nursery rhymes? Yes, partly it is nursery rhyme, but why is it important? So when you want to check the child is secure in aspect 4, which is rhythm and rhyme, you want to see if they can identify words that sounds the same. For example, if you have the word cot, and if you ask the child, can you find the word that sounds like cot? The child will be able to recognize pot, dot. Similarly, the word mat. Can you find another word that sounds like mat? So then the child can recognize the word like mat, cat, pat. Why is this important? Because this is a literacy development that helps the child to be able to understand sentences and words in stories, or when you can hold conversation with them. So it is an important aspect of developing them at a very early on. Alliteration is also another aspect of phase one, where the child is able to come up with words that sound similar through their creative thinking. So if they have learned the word snake and they recognize the sound, we're not teaching phonics alphabet yet. We're just teaching words snake. Can you think of another word that sounds like that? So maybe Susie Snake. You can make a story, Susie Snake and the silly socks. So that's an alliteration. You recognize the similarity of the sound in words. If a child is showing ability to alliterate without reading, this is a good indication that, okay, now formal instruction in phonics can begin. Voice sounds is the ability to imitate and emulate the sound. For example, when you're washing dishes, you can wish the child can do that. The child can copy the sound of an animal, of a sheep, a horse, a cat, like, you can do the meow. So this is really important because as we know, phonics have 44 phonemes, and each of these phonemes have a spelling rule and the sound it produce, like ch. If they can, when they play with the train, they can make the ch sound. Now, knowing this, does this mean that phonics is only for children who are verbal? No. We have children in our setting who are non-verbal, but who are excellent reader. They form big words, sentences, and they could make really complex sentences because they already have the vocabulary knowledge. While they may not be able to speak, but they can hear, and they hear very well. And some of them have very sensitive hearing, which they can actually tune into even soft sound. So phonics is not only as isolated to children who can speak. Phonics is a reading program, and reading does not necessarily require you to speak. You can do, most of the time we read through eye tracking or using your fingers. So just to clear the misconception, reading program is not isolated to only verbal children. It just makes it easier for verbal children to express, but it can be taught to non-verbal children. How are we going to do it? This the same way we teach other skills in our children. They can point, they can sort, they can select, which I will discuss more as we go on. So now that we know there are 7 aspects in phase 1 of the phonics scheme, following the letters and sound program. Now, how do we teach environmental sounds? So at the base level, we are going to teach them indoor sound and outdoor sounds. What are we going to teach indoor sounds? Suppose you're going to visualize that you're teaching a child from scratch. From scratch. You would like to teach them simple 2 or 3 cards at most. Something that is familiar to them in their environment. For example, in the house. And to narrow it down, just in the bathroom. In the bathroom, there are several things that you can teach vocabulary relating to the sound that they can hear from you. What does this mean? So this means, like, if you turn on the tap water makes a sound, and you can teach them splish splash water. So you can take a photo of that water and the sound, so that whenever the child go anywhere, they know that's the sound of water. And then you can teach them the sound of the drain. That's a drain. And take a photo. I personally prefer to use real life photo in your home, your own experience, something that the child has seen regularly. But using generic photos is also fine. But in the initial part, if we want to teach children from the ground up, and if they're not vocalizing yet, so this is one of the strategy that we can use to teach environmental sound. What else are indoor sounds? Supermarket, cinema, school, classroom. And these are really achievable experiences that we can start almost immediately. And you can just choose 2 or 3 items and then build up on that. the way we do communication board, the way we do our intervention, the same way. But we're going to teach them based on what is um, around them first. Now, sometimes in sorting activities, we sort items based on their function. So when we're doing phonics environmental sound, it is very important to have the audio file and the visual. So you can use your phone to record, or those sound talkies, you can use them. Because when you're sorting, we're not sorting items based on where they belong. So if, for example, in the bathroom, there is a towel, we don't want sorting of towel. Towel doesn't make a sound. We want like tap, toothbrush, drain, water, things that produces sound. What we're trying to do is to tune in, allow their ears to be comfortable hearing sound and tune into that. Now, outdoor sounds, how do we teach outdoor sounds? The same way we do with indoor sounds. We take them outdoors, going out to the car. There are cars on the street. Your own car or your own vehicle. You can use that as an example. Another useful strategy to teach outdoor sounds is through the thematic activities in school or seasons that you do, whether you homeschool or you go to a formal school, or when you take the child out. So with the outdoor sound, especially like thematic setup will be best. So you need to put the animals and play the sound of the animal for that experiences to be meaningful. And take time to enjoy this play activity, because a lot of the time children need longer processing time and more of the same experiences to reinforce their learning. So if we're doing intervention, do not be worried that you're repeating the activity until the child is showing you he is ready to progress. So, reinforcement and regular exposure of the same is important. If they are non-verbal, they will show you how they understand it. If they are verbal, they will show you. You will notice. So at the ground level is this aspect, to be able to tune into sound and to recognize them. So if they hear the sound of a vacuum, they can say that that's a vacuum. They hear the sound of a microwave, they can say, okay, that's a microwave. They recognize the doorbell, the ambulance, the aeroplane, the sound of a chicken, the sound of a horse. That's what environmental sound is about. Play with opportunities to listen to every experience, because phonics is about listening to the sound and saying it or reading it based on the decodable technique that it is that we have available for us. Right, how are we going to conduct environmental sound activities? So there's two things we can do. We can go on a sound walk, or we can plan for sound investigation activities. You can do that once a week if you have the younger learners, for them to know that the ears is for listening and what can they hear in the complete silence or outside. They can go, you can have predetermined photos like a checklist, or they can create their very own. Oh, I hear the sound of leaves crushing. Can take a photo. Like I said, start with achievable tasks, 2, 3, and build it up. The child will show you readiness, that they are ready to learn more vocabulary, and the child will show you signs that it is too much for them to remember just one or two vocabulary. So rather, make it be a frequent habit, but small, manageable tasks. And then label the item. What is that thing? Oh, there's a cat, and the cat meow, or the cat, sometimes on the street the cat may not meow. When we get closer for them to see that's a cat, it meows and it rubs, and so they learn the new vocabulary with their experience. The wonderful thing about our time in technology is that we can record both audio and video. So learning is more multi-sensory now. We don't have to depend only on visual or written words. So we can create our own resources that suit our child, that suit out the children that we are teaching, or the intervention groups. So utilize this technology to make it more personalized, and so that we can measure these experiences at the end of our teaching program, or at the end of the term when we're in school. Right, like I said earlier, the example of indoor sounds. So we can prompt them, what can you hear, touch? And then we need to try and imitate the sound. You'll find that with the younger learners, they are happy to imitate. But that imitation is so important for us to see how they processes the sound. Can they make the swish swish sound? Can they make the pip pip sound? We're looking at how they're projecting this sound. Why is this important? It's just play. Because the sooner you notice there is a difficulty in producing sound, the sooner you can seek for specialist support in addressing this need. If the child is non-verbal, you can incorporate gesture, because you're teaching them to communicate, and you are teaching them how to form that oral motor movement of their mouth. So in the bathroom itself, there are so many vocabulary to build. In this photo of this child just brushing teeth, you have toothbrush, that's one word, teeth, mouth, open, toothpaste, mirror, smile. Those are all the vocabulary that can be learned in just one experience. And, build it up so that it becomes a lot more words. Just in the bathroom, there's so many words that the child knows. First is to build the vocabulary needed and to listen to the sound around them. What examples can you do with outdoor sounds? So with outdoor sounds, you can do small world play, and small world play will be like your farm theme, zoo, or related to a book, under the sea. Another useful method to develop sound awareness in outdoor sounds is books with sound effects. This is so necessary for children to know what is outside the house and what is inside the house. It's a basic level of classification for them to understand that, farm animals don't live in the house, they're outside. With pets like cats and dog, depending on how you do it, sometimes I don't mind if they classify them indoors rather than outdoor, because some of us live with pets indoors, so but rather look at more on like farm animals outside, which is not cats and dogs. And then let them hear sounds through audio books, sound effect books, or go to places where outdoor sounds can be heard, like a fire station, ambulance, a siren. Obviously, you don't want to introduce them to like sound that is gonna scare them, but first you show the sound through books, and then through videos or stories, and then go there personally, so they know Imagine going to a fire station. You're learning about doors, colors, bay, many water holes. So it's a very language-rich experience. And ideally is to have a booklet that distinguish indoor sounds and outdoor sounds that the child has experienced himself. It's so necessary to make that learning personalized to support your child develop their foundation, that their experience have a meaning. And if they need to revisit what they have learned, they can do it. When they look again at the picture that they've been to the fire station, they'll remember the sound, they'll recall. Just like the slides previously we discussed about schema from Jean Piaget's cognitive development theory. So when we provide that opportunity for the children to revisit on their own, we're helping them remember their own experiences to the sounds around them. For the non-verbal children, we can do listening walks using visuals. You can use widget or packs, and build it up in your first. If you're doing it every week, your first sound walk, you're just going to put two items that the child will definitely find. Maybe a car, maybe a dog, and that's it. And then you're going to play the audio that they heard in the outdoors, that they recognize the sound of a car. Can they sort it or match it? And then if you feel like they are showing signs that they understand, then build it up and teach them the vocabulary. If they see a bird, if they see an insect, teach them the vocabulary and then reinforce that experience, whether to a park or to the beach, to the farm, to petting zoo, things like that. You can create a board where they can identify the sound they hear and what and how they're going to consolidate their learning later on. Right. So as I said earlier, how do we consolidate understanding in non-verbal children? One of the things we can do is to offer sorting activities. All right. So just like how we sort indoor and outdoor sound, we can do that. We can differentiate and provide visuals for them to recognize indoor and outdoor sound. So this is just a generic example. I have a personal example. I have a personal example that I adapt for the children in my setting. So I create a picture that has indoor and outdoor um, pictures, and then I ask, without prompt, I ask the child to put the items and identify what is indoor and outdoor. And when we have exposed the child so much, I don't prompt. I just put the picture, and she'll just fix it herself, and she'll say this is for inside, not outside. So then I know the environmental sound aspect in indoor sound is secure with regards to homes. In environmental aspects, sound with regards to supermarket is secure or needs more help. The child cannot consolidate the sound of coins. So this is when I'll take coins and I'll play. We'll keep on exposing it to coins, the words, the different experience, just so that the understanding of what is the meaning of coin, money, and the sound it makes has relevance to the child. And I also try to make the children to emulate the sound if they are verbal. So make the sound of a coin. What does it sound like? Ching, 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 cling, cling, cling. We want to hear the language. We want to hear the way the tongue the way the tongue manipulate to make all this sound. Because the sooner we know, the earlier we are able to work on harnessing this. If the child needs support in developing the tongue muscle or the jaw muscle, or what kind of oral motor exercise will help the child further. So just think about, do not be worried if the child is verbal or non-verbal, because with non-verbal, it's a different strategy. With the verbal, is a different strategy. And when you are supporting children of different needs, you will adapt your practice. And the aim is to be able to teach them to learn language at a level that is achievable, the same way they learn how to brush their teeth or take a shower or go to the toilet. The same way. Um, there will be visuals, there will be steps, there will be support. So similarly, this is how we aim to teach them to learn how to read. So I thought like it's really important question to ask ourselves, why is environmental sound important? Because environmental sound allows children to understand the world around them. So it's a sense of it's the sense of belonging for them to know, um, I live in a house. Oh, I went to the park. The park is not inside my house. The park is outside. So, that's the beach. At the beach, there is no uh, animals like in the farm, So they become aware of the environment, and they become more, they're given that enriching experience as children. Also, environmental sound allow children to understand that everything has a meaning. So the dog barking is the way the dog behaves. The cat meowing is the way the cat behaves. The bird chirping is the way birds chirping. And then dogs can be furry, can be fluffy, can be small, can be big, can be friendly, can be scary. So everything that they see has a meaning. And every word that is spoken has a meaning. Every sound that we make is a combination of phonological sound that is combined to form simple words as well as complex words. At the same time, at the ground level, environmental sound helps develop their memory when we look at Jean Piaget's theory of cognitive development. The next aspect that we will be talking about will be the instrumental sounds. Just like environmental sound, instrumental sound is sound that is produced by objects instead of the environment. It's in object, it's in the material. So does this mean that they need to play music and like the musical instrument? No. It simply means to develop their vocabulary to the different instrument, to develop an auditory discrimination skills. I know some children do not tolerate musical instruments, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the idea of instrumental sound is to give them the opportunity to explore sound from instrument. So a drum, when you beat, it produces sound. When you don't beat, it doesn't make a sound. A guitar, when you pluck the string or you strum, it produces a sound when you leave it. So on its own, this instrument do not produce a sound, but when you interact it in a certain way, it produces a sound. So what's going on here is the basic level of cause and effect at play here. But in very, with the intent for it to be enjoyable. I remember I had a student that was playing when in one of the music lesson he seemed to tolerate with hard sound but would not tolerate with sharp sound like a bell shaker. So things like tambourine were were causing him to be feeling uncomfortable. So if you do notice any of your child that's not comfortable with this sound, that's perfectly fine. You don't have to expect them to like all musical instruments. They don't. They just need to understand that each of these instrument causes has an effect when you interact with them a certain way. And then as practitioner, we will be able to notice the children in our setting if they have tolerance for high pitch or low pitch, or they seem to be triggered by a certain tone. Um, and this only help us to create an environment that's more inclusive and to avoid a certain trigger. And then work with specialists and professional to to find how we can um, um, help them overcome this difficulty that they're having right now. So another thing that we can do is to teach them or offer them noise makers. So one of the things we can do is just a second. Just have to find it. All right. Sorry, just a bit of interruption here. So, for those children who do not like musical instrument, you can teach them or offer them noise makers, like it, allow them to experiment themselves, cook pasta or rice or beats, and then let them hear it. What do they hear? Now that they've recognized and familiarized themselves with this, obviously different elements inside will produce different sound. So large beat might produce a deeper tone, and then the smaller beats might produce a bit more higher pitch tone. So you can see they remember the sound. Suppose you hide behind a screen or put a board in front of you, shake it and see which one is that. They can point to the visual, they think that that's the one with the bigger beat or the small beat. What you're doing is you're trying to help them remember the sound and working on their memory as well as improving their processing speed, especially when they're playing. So if you ask them to beat one beat, two beat, and see how they're copying that action. While it seemed like play, it's actually development going on when they're following that beat, when they're recognizing the sound, they can match it. So what I hope is to give you a bigger picture that it doesn't necessarily have to be only music or musical instrument. The idea is to discriminate sound. So being able to explore a wide range of medium that produces sound is also fine. But music is just enjoying, and especially for those who can sing, it's just something that helps them enjoy music lessons if that is offered in school. The next aspect that we will be talking about is the body percussion. What is body percussion in phase 1 phonics? So body percussion is for children to be able to carry out actions by listening to the instruction. So for example, if I ask a child to clap their hands, they can clap their hands. But ask a child to pat their head, or, different body parts, they're able to do that. Why is this important? Because you will notice that as we go further in the different aspect of environmental sound, the processing speed increase and the instruction becomes more complex because we're helping them be ready for the skills needed to learn how to read. When you look at a grapheme card, a phonics flashcard, you're looking at the letter, say, SAT, to make the word set. The eyes is visually processing what that letter is, what it means, and how to blend it to form the word set. So our brain is working with increased processing speed. And in school, we often do phonics flashcard reading, where we make it a quick reading, but that can come later when the processing skills at the foundation level is more secure. Another important factor when we're looking at body percussion is to look at the gross motor coordination, because when a child has difficulty with their bilateral coordination, and if you can see at the basic level, as early as practitioner, it's the most important time for us to consult with specialists for further evaluation, because sometimes with the nursery age children, we teach children action songs like, say, head, shoulders, knees and toes, and we want to test if they identify these body parts. So we'll say, point to your head, can you touch your knees? And then they touch their tummy. So we want to teach them, okay, this is your knees. Are they having trouble touching their knees? Is it a balancing issue, or do they not recognize their knees? So you can give an intervention to teach them how to read. To teach them how to recognize different body parts and an area that they need more help in. Another thing is bilateral coordination. It is such an important skill for writing development. And that will also need more like an OT to help develop. So if we as teachers or support staff notice this area of development that our child has, it's always best to bring it up the sooner we find, so that we can do our bit and then the specialists can do their bit, and then together the parents can do their bit. Together we are helping the child in a more multisensory way. Also, body percussion, again, while we're discriminating sound, for example, if I clap, now ask the child to close their eyes. Okay, what am I doing? When you clap, the child can say it's clap, or stomp their feet, or snap their fingers. All this is guiding the child whether they understand the vocabulary related to body percussion. Again, it's more on developing the vocabulary to understand words and expand their language before formal phonics instruction. So going back to the first few slides, when I showed you the picture of a dog, to be able to read the word dog, first you need to recognize what is a dog. To be able to read the word cat, you need to be able to recognize what's a cat. So to be able to read tap, to be able to read door, and whatever the complex spelling rule that comes after, we need to recognize or know that there is something called door, there is something called cat, So at the very foundation level, it is still language development, auditory discrimination, but that enriching experience is what makes formal phonics instruction at phase 2 and up easier for children. both for neurotypical and neuro diverse children. Sometimes with our neurodiverse children, it sometimes we feel like this is not necessary. They're not talking. They don't need to learn how to read. We really need to break away from this stigma, because reading is a skill that can be enjoyed by everybody. And it's also a form of expression and communication that we can teach our young learners by helping and supporting them. There have been really wonderful people who came from a neurodiverse background who managed to become really amazing authors. And we never know the amazing authors among us until we give them a chance with learning how to read and help them at the foundation level. Right. So another thing I thought like we can reflect on is we talk about processing speed, the ability to quickly link sounds to object or words. Is closely associated with early vocabulary development and supports broader cognitive growth. So again, I have mentioned this. So at the end of the day, a multidisciplinary approach is the best. Early intervention and any intervention at any point is so important. Some children are amazing and excel exceptionally well in certain areas, and they need a little bit of help in other areas. So this is when we can utilize the different specialists available to support the child further. We have some children who are really good at reading and writing words. And so we use that knowledge to help them develop the fine motor skills needed for writing. But suppose they do have apraxia, which they find it hard to write with a pencil. That does not mean that they cannot learn how to write. They can use print form to make sentences. So you can use your magnetic letters, you can use your phrase cards, you can lay out the alphabet for them to write the word cat, for them to, the same way neurotypical children are given that opportunity. The same opportunity can be given to neurodivergent children. And for us as early childhood practitioner, we don't look at as a barrier to their ability. Rather, we can personalize their learning experience and, work in partnership with parents and feedback to parents how we can all help together to help them develop this skill further at small, measurable steps. This leads me to the next question. In your setting, what strategies do you use to evaluate student grasp of phase 1 phonics? So I would appreciate if you can give your feedback in the chat box, because if this is available, then we can understand whether phase 1 is measured in settings, or is it something that we need more input from others. Must it be enforced or requested by settings to measure phase 1 phonics skills? Because we always measure their reading skills in phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. But have you ever had any support in assessing children's understanding in phase 1 phonics? If you can just write it in the chat box, will be wonderful. right? Okay. So in my experience, sometimes I find that we don't have a lot of um, phase one phonics assessment system, and a lot of having this will help us be able to demonstrate a full picture of the child to the inclusion team or these specialists that can help the child develop some of these skills. But as practitioner, we need to follow. Just because they're in the early years does not mean that it should be addressed later. Rather, any gaps that you notice should be addressed timely, because then the support can be put in place for the child to learn and overcome these barriers that presents early on. So how do we assess achievements? Let's just say we've done environmental sounds, we've done instrumental sounds. So one activity to do is to play a sound lotto game, and you can find them on the internet, like sound files of a hospital, sound files of a park, sound files of farm animals, and then you can just the same way you play lotto. So if you hear the sound of a chicken, you can point it, or you can block it out and see who wins at the end. That's a bit more fun and interactive. Another way is to play what's in the box game. You can also use that as the attention bucket activities. Um, one way to teach them new vocabulary. But what's in the box is another game. If they're verbal, they can guess by you describing the features of the item. For example, if you have a cat toy or a bunny toy, you can describe what's in the box. Well, I have something that has two teeth, has long ears, and likes to hop. So you can get their engagement to see if they can imagine, or you can ask them to make the sound. Um, like if you have animals that you can describe, like a lion or elephant, and for your non-verbal children, you can have an option of two visuals for them to choose. So some non-verbals respond to verbal instruction excellently. Some need help. So depending on your child, you will have to tailor and customize, personalize their experience. And then you can play a matching pair game and see if they can do it. So maybe you stand behind the screen, you shake an item, or for example, if you have a clicker, you click it, and then you have several 2 or 3 items in front with a selection of toys, and see they can match based on what they hear. So you play a clicker and you cover it with the screen, and they're going to pick up a clicker and show you their understanding. So maybe first few times it's not going to be easy, and then eventually the more they have exposure to this, the more they will be able to respond to your prompts. Another way to check their achievements in percussion, body percussion, is to see how they respond to body actions. Can they tap? Can they pat? Can they jump? You can play songs like, Sleeping Bunnies, head, shoulders, knees, and toes, and see, can they clap their hand fast? Can they clap their hands? Can they make a fist? Can they snap? So we're looking at coordination and being able to respond to instruction. It's okay if they don't have it perfect, but if they try, that means they understand the prompt. They just need help with maybe coordination. Maybe they need help to develop strength. So being able to assess is a good indication of seeing how far the child is ready to progress in terms of learning formal phonics. And if the child has already learned phonics, they have already established their sounds, some sound, are they supposed to stop? No, they carry on in tandem to developing the skills in their environmental sound. So maybe they know phase 2 phonics and they're beginning phase 3, whereas there's digraph and trigraph. Carry on with the digraph and trigraph, but check their environmental sound, their phase 1 phonics. Maybe in rhymes they need help. Maybe they need to find words that rhyme. Maybe they need to be able to form alliteration, because these are all literacy skills that helps them build up as they go on in the higher level of the different phases of phonics. Another useful tool to check your practice or assess children's phase 1 phonics is to be able to have a tracking system. So this helps measure the child, how long has this phase been introduced, and where is that learning barrier? Is it auditory processing or is it gross motor processing? What, as practitioner or as parents, being able to track helps you narrow down where the support you need, when there is a support needed, for the neurotypical children as well as neurodivergent children. So having a data tracking system really helps you make intervention or bridge their learning gaps. One of the things I like to do when I'm teaching them phase 1, I like to create a booklet of environmental sounds in indoor, and then environmental sound outdoor, because these are many topics. The idea of that booklet is to let it be language growth booklet, and allow them to revisit it, and then revisit, and you can review it again as teachers, so that if you need to teach again about the microwave, the child recognize vacuum, the child recognize a washing machine, but microwave, he doesn't seem to get it. So okay, you can differentiate that vocabulary. What is the bell? Is it the sound? Does it sound like a bell? Maybe we need to offer different visuals of microwave. So for me, the booklet helps me measure what is working for the child and what is not working for the child. So on a last note, I know we have gone further than expected, and I apologize for that. I appreciate your attendance. So what I recommend is to implement or choose a phonics system that really supports your foundational skills, that gives you an assessment tool so you can track. And it helps you monitor their progress. So whatever gap, for example, if he can copy a body action, then I can mark it. Okay, he can copy body action, but he will not move to body action. So he can copy clap, stand, but he's not going to move to songs. Okay. All right, let me focus on other areas in body percussion. He can perform actions at different speed. So he can do it fast, he can do it slow. If he cannot, I'm not going to mark them. Then I'm going to investigate why. Is it a gross motor issue? Is it a processing issue? Is it interest? So it really breaks down the learning outcomes and what we're trying to look in children. So that's my recommendation. Mainly when we want to bridge learning gap, the idea is for all children to have access to literacy. All children have the opportunity to develop language, reading, enjoy it, be able to write maybe eventually one day. Another useful strategy is to break activities into manageable small chunks. Adapt and modify your activity if you need to. You have a guideline, you have a system in place. Just adapt your activity. If you're introducing the letter S and you have 10 visuals, that's just gonna, that's probably gonna overwhelm your child. Have two visuals and then check after every day, check again. Have two visuals, check again. And then, that way you will be able to um, track your child if they're ready for more words um, before putting on 10 words and then they cannot remember. I think this is mainly for neurodivergent children. So with the neurotypical, again, both children, you need to look at what they are ready. They will give you the sign that they're ready. They will give you the sign that they need more help. Um, yeah. So that's pretty much it for today's session. I appreciate your attendance. Thank you. And I apologize for going well over the time. I do have another session coming up in like a few minutes up. But please, if you do have any questions, you can write to me. You can write to our center. You can write your comment and we'll be happy to work in partnership with you to help your children or to collaborate in any way. Thank you so much for your attendance. Have a lovely weekend and
Thank you.
take care.
All right. Thank you, Anita. And for that, thank you so much for that insightful topic. And a big thank you also to everyone who joined us today, both here and on YouTube. And we really appreciate your time and your participation. And join us again for the next webinar happening on November 28th with our topic Transforming Learning and Behavior in Children Who Learn Differently. And that's all, everyone. Thank you and have a lovely weekend. Hope to see you guys again. Thank
Thank
you.
you.